On video. Top of the day, beautiful people. Alright, y'all. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Ooh, let me check something real quick. Let's see. Robert Betwabu. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Report it. Might be for people just doing something. Oh, I need to order me another book. I'm tripping. Oh, I almost ran out of space. I didn't know. So tiny. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Happy Monday. It is December the 6th, 2021, day 320 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 988. Today we are reading Proverbs 7, 8, and 9. Hold on. Oh, okay. Ah, Crackhead Willy, shalom.
I don't know what is what yet. So this whole time you said what?
Y'all, I wasn't calling the name. That's what he changed his name to. Hey, babe. I'm laughing on one of the names. One of the subscribers on YouTube.
Oh.
His name is Crackhead Willy.
Oh, wow.
It caught me off guard. Mom, shalom. Belinda Brown, shalom. Auntie Gil Rice, shalom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. We're going to be reading the next few pages of the true authorship of the New Testament. We'll pick it back up on page 8. All right, y'all. Really funny. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump to the Shema chapter in Deuteronomy Chapter 6. All right, y'all. Sunday. Okay. A call for wholehearted commitment. No, don't change it. I like it. Okay. Is that better? Can y'all hear me now? I'm sorry. It hooks up to the truck. My husband's hook up to me. I turned mine off just in case. Jen, good morning. Okay, he pulling away, so if you can't hear me. Hold on. Oh, you can hear me now. Okay, sweet. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. Shayla, hey, girl, hey. I'll go back to 20. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah, our God, has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees, to fear him, so that he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives, as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands of Yahuwah our God that he has commanded us. All right, beautiful people. That was a Shema. So let's go ahead and hop on over to Proverbs 7. I love these next set of chapters. I love the book of Proverbs altogether, y'all. I really do. Okay. Okay. Another warning about immoral women. Follow my advice, my son. Always treasure my commands. Obey my commands and live. Guard my instructions as you guard your own eyes. Tie them on your fingers as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Love wisdom like a sister. Make insight a beloved member of your family. Let them protect you from an affair with an immoral woman, from listening to the flattery of a promiscuous woman. While I was at the window of my house, looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young men, and one in particular who lacked common sense. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path by her house. It was at twilight in the evening, as deep darkness fell. The woman approached him, seductively dressed and sly of heart. She's the brass type, rebellious, never content to stay at home. She is often in the streets and the markets, soliciting at every corner. She threw her arms around him and kissed him, and with a brazen look, she said, I've just made my peace offerings and fulfilled my vows. You're the one I was looking for. I came out to find you, and here you are. My bed is spread with beautiful blankets, with colored sheets of Egyptian linen. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us drink our fill of love until morning. Let's enjoy. You okay?
It was sour.
Let's enjoy each other's caresses, for my husband is not home. That should have been his first clue to get out of there. Come, let us drink our fill of love until morning. Let's enjoy each other's caresses, for my husband is not at home. He's away on a long trip. He has taken a wallet full of money with him and won't return until later this month. So she seduced him with her pretty speech and enticed him with her flattery. He followed her at once, like an ox going to the slaughter. He was like a stag caught in a trap, awaiting the arrow that would pierce its heart. He was like a bird flying into a snare, little knowing it would cost him his life. So listen to me, my sons, and pay attention to my words. Don't let your hearts stray away toward her. Don't wander down her wayward path, for she has been the ruin of many. Many men have been her victims. Her house is the road to the grave. Her bedroom is the den of death. That would do men and women well to remember. Wisdom calls for hearing. Listen as wisdom calls out. Hear as understanding raises her voice. On the hilltop, along the road, she takes her stand at the crossroads. By the gates at the entrance of the town, on the road leading in, she cries aloud, I call to you, to all of you. I raise my voice to all people. You simple people, use good judgment. You foolish people, show some understanding. Listen to me, for I have important things to tell you. Everything I say is right, for I speak the truth. I detest every kind of deception. My advice is wholesome. There is nothing devious or crooked in it. My words are plain to anyone with understanding, clear to those with knowledge. Choose my instruction rather than silver, and knowledge rather than pure gold. For wisdom is far more valuable than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with it. I, wisdom, live together with good judgment. I know where to discover knowledge and discernment. All who fear Yahuwah will hate evil. Therefore, I hate pride and arrogance, corruption and perverse speech. Common sense and success belong to me. Insight and strength are mine. Because of me, kings reign and rulers make just decrees. Rulers lead with my help, and nobles make righteous judgments. I love all who love me. Those who search will surely find me. I have riches and honor, as well as enduring wealth and justice. My gifts are better than gold, even the purest gold, and my wages are better than silver. I walk in righteousness, in paths of justice. Those who love me inherit wealth. I will fill their treasuries. Yahuwah formed me from the beginning, before he created anything else. I was appointed in ages past, at the very first, before the earth began. I was born before the oceans were created, before the springs bubbled forth their waters, before the mountains were formed, before the hills I was born, before he had made the earth and fields and the first handfuls of soil. I was there when he established the heavens, when he drew the horizon on the oceans. I was there when he set the clouds above, when he established springs deep in the earth. I was there when he set the limits of the seas, so they would not spread beyond their boundaries. And when he marked off earth's foundations, I was the architect at his side. I was his constant delight, rejoicing always in his presence. And how happy I am with the world he created, how I rejoice with the human family. And so, my children, listen to me, for all who follow my ways are joyful. Listen to my instruction and be wise. Don't ignore it. Joyful are those who listen to me, watching for me daily at my gates, waiting for me outside my home. For whoever finds me finds life and receives favor from Yahuwah. But those who miss me injure themselves. All who hate me love death. Robert says, so this woman is killing the man she sleep with. Yep, you could say that. You're talking about the last chapter. Lindsay, shalom. Facebook is no pick. Can you see me, Robert? Can y'all see me on Facebook? Hold on. Is that what you said? Gil on YouTube said Facebook is no pick. I'm not sure what that means. I'm thinking. He was saying he can't see. If you can't see, possibly check your phone. Nobody said anything. Or maybe I could just be misunderstanding what you're saying. Okay. But yeah, Robert in Proverbs Chapter 7. Yeah, she was a prostitute. It was basically explaining the principle of how pretty much you shouldn't be committing fornication. And it was specifically talking to those who were married or commit fornication, or if you're married, it's called adultery. If you commit adultery with a fornicating woman, but that also applies to what do I say? A fornicating woman, an adulterous woman, but that also applies to adulterous men as well, right? You pretty much you're setting yourself up for the grave, you know. And we can see that principle holds true. Y'all ever see some of these murder suicides and find out it's a husband and a wife, and vice versa? Either the husband and walked in and found his wife with another man, or vice versa. It even happen if they're not married. They end up taking a life. You know, it's crazy. Don't be playing around with people. Don't be playing. That's a dangerous games of hearts people play. It's a dangerous games of hearts. They do not think it all the way through. Sometimes people snap in that instance. People who you would never would think would snap. You know, so you got to be careful. If you feel that strong, you need to go do something, I would say just step away. Just leave the union, completely end it, and go on and do what you want to do, right? Yeah, playing with people's hearts is a no-no. Some people can't handle it. At least handle it and you still live. Love has been a killer for years. Love can be a great thing, but it can also get you 6 feet deep. All right, y'all. Last chapter for today, Proverbs chapter 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has carved its 7 pillars. Hold on. No, I said pillars. That's columns. Okay. Wisdom has built her house. She has carved its 7 columns. She has prepared a great banquet, mixed the wines, and set the table. She has sent her servants to invite everyone to come. She calls out from the heights overlooking the city. Come in with me, she urges the simple. To those who lack good judgment, she says, come eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways behind and begin to live. Learn to use good judgment. Anyone who rebukes a mocker will get an insult in return. Anyone who corrects the wicked will get hurt. So don't bother correcting mockers. They will only hate you. But correct the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they will be even wiser. Teach the righteous, and they will learn even more. Fear of Yahuwah is the foundation of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in good judgment. Wisdom will multiply your days and add years to your life. If you become wise, you will be the one to benefit. If you scorn wisdom, you will be the one to suffer. The woman named Folly is brash. She is ignorant and doesn't know it. She sits in her doorway on the heights overlooking the city. She calls out to men going by who are minding their own business. Come in with me, she urges the simple. To those who lack good judgment, she says, stolen water is refreshing. Food eaten in secret tastes the best. But little do they know that the dead are there. Her guests are in the depths of the grave. All right, beautiful people. So these chapters, it's comparing 2 types of women, right? In the natural or the physical realm, it's comparing people to spirits of virtue and spirits not so much of virtue, right? And they're talking about these virtues as if they were actual people or actual women, right? So it's describing 2 types of women. And we actually have these 2 types of women here on earth. Those who are foolish and promiscuous and those who are wise. And everything that comes from their lips will be a benefit to all those who hear, right? She's wisdom, and wisdom cries out not to just a certain group of people, but wisdom cries out to all who will listen. Doesn't matter the race, ethnicity, or background. Wisdom is looking for whoever will listen, that you can also become wise, right? So may we look for that woman. May we look for her. Wisdom, right? Different cultures call her different things, right? It's the same story being told over and over again in the different religions, but we have taken them, these analogies and these myths, to be true. And they're true in a sense where they create characters to help us better understand principles that we can't see, spiritual principles, right? But once we can get the right understanding of what these stories are, it'll better help us in our road to spiritual growth. Will we be able to grow a whole lot faster? Yahuwah is one. Shalom. May the great spirit of Yahuwah bless you too. A wise woman can be the same. Yes. And amen. Okay, y'all. Here you go. Let's go ahead and hop on over here and pick up where we left off at yesterday. What after page 7? Oh, no, I didn't do that. I started on 7. We paused on 14. I need to go back and change it in my notes too. Oh yeah, I need to fix my notes. Nobody probably caught it. Okay, y'all. So on page 14, down towards the middle, well, actually closer to the bottom of the page is the next section, section 7, and it's entitled The Creation of the Church. Quote, some affirm that we say, let us do evil things that good things may come. End quote. And that's Romans chapter 3, verse 8. As the years after 70 rolled by, the Jews continued rejecting the story. Remember the story that they created and gave to the Hebrews. They said, this is garbage, right? Okay. As the years after 70 rolled by, the Jews continued rejecting the story. Piso's successive versions became increasingly anti-Jewish, but he was still prohibited by the Flavian emperors from taking the tale to non-Jews. Then, in 96, he and Pliny assassinated Emperor Domitian, second son and last survivor of Vespasian. Nerva became emperor, named the Pisos to his council, and allowed them to do what they pleased. The family began writing the Acts of the Apostles, for thus far they have a hero who says he comes only to the lost sheep of Israel and who hesitates to scatter his bread to the dogs. They need a second hero, one whom Jesus will instruct from heaven to open the new faith to non-Jews. Justice will start that story and create and play the part of the new spokesman, Paul. The vehicle for transformation of Paul from persecutor to apostle is his remarkable version, all in the story, which in turn rests on his experience in observing the stoning of Stephen. The robes of the witnesses to the stoning are even laid at Paul's feet. Acts chapter 7, verse 58. The Martyrdom of Stephen is a posthumous honor to Stephanus, the slave of Domitilla, Emperor Domitian's niece, who had helped kill the emperor in Rome just before the writing of Acts. He becomes the gentle Stephen, whom the Jewish mob stones in Acts chapter 7, verses 58 through 59. But Acts does not state he died, but only that he fell asleep. Acts chapter 70, verse 60. For he was in fact killed in Rome by those not involved in the plot who rushed in, presumably Domitian's bodyguards. 2 years later, in 98, Nerva dies and Trajan becomes emperor. He was married to Pompeia Platina. Her true name was Claudia Phoebe. She was Piso's daughter. The family now ruled the world. Acts was soon finished and the epistles were being written. Between 100 and 105, while they were writing the New Testament epistles, the Gospel of John, the Pisos were creating the embryonic church. Justus, his father, Pliny, their family, friends, and their slaves traveled about Bithynia, Pontus, and the province of Asia, all in what is now Asiatic Turkey, the Greek cities, and later Alexandria and elsewhere, to create the churches and to gather the slaves and poor people in the new faith. Mikhail, shalom. Josiah, shalom. As the public writings under Piso's name of Josephus, coupled with the synoptic gospels, are the only method to find him as the creator of the Jesus story, so are the writings of Pliny, both the public and the private ones, the method to glimpse the creation of the church. From the letters of Pliny, one can unravel the members of the Piso family under their various pseudonyms and can notice the comings and goings of the family across Bithynia and the adjacent provinces. From the letters of St. Ignatius, which are also by Pliny, one can see him writing the various family members and friends as they start the first churches. Pliny created the first churches in Bithynia. Is Bithynia. I think it's Bithynia. But anyway, Pliny created the first churches in Bithynia and Pontus, commencing about 100 once Acts of the Apostles was completed. But that was not his first tour of duty there, nor did his tour cover a mere few years, ending about 112, as is presumed from his public writings. He was in Pontus and Bithynia repeatedly between the years 85 and 112. The method to deduce his many tours is the appearance of his Pseudonym Maximus repeatedly, the various second names in his public letters. From his letters, he appears as Terentius Maximus, procurator for Emperor Domitian in Bithynia, and was there even back in 85 to 86 as proconsul under the name Lapius Maximus. All the careers of various people named Maximus, each of which was Pliny, appear in his own public letters. This leads us to the source of the first name of Pontius Pilate. He, in fact, was named merely Pilate or Pilatos in Greek. He was only Pilate when Philo of Alexandria discussed him about the year 45 in his writings. He mentioned him only in connection with the incident of the shields. Pilate remained merely that in the first two Gospels, Matthew chapter 27 and Mark chapter 15. Only in Luke chapter 3 verse 1 does Pilate acquire the additional name Pontius. That was because in 85 to 90, Pliny was assisting Piso writing the third Gospel, Luke. So Piso honored him by adding the name Pontius, which was a variant form of Pliny's province Pontus to Pilate's name, for Pliny had already been serving a term as governor there. Later, twice more, Pilate is called Pontius Pilate in Acts 4:27, written after 96 by Justus, then in 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 13, which Pliny himself wrote about 105. The family also slipped into Acts in connection with the purported travels of Paul and others, mention of Pontus in Acts chapter 2 verse 9, and of Bithynia, Acts chapter 16 verse 7. Piso, as a fictional Jew named Aquila, is born in Pontus according to Acts chapter 18 verse 2, and the first verse in 1 Peter mentions believers in Pontus and in Bithynia. Pliny's letters show that Justus too was in Bithynia between 96 and 98. He was proconsul there under the name Tullius Justus. Piso also shows his presence in these provinces and also via Pliny's letters. As Claudius Ariston, form of Aristo, he was the leading citizen of Ephesus. That was the chief city of the province of Asia, located southwest of Bithynia. As Flavius Archippus, the philosopher, Pliny had been honored by Emperor Domitian. The emperor commended him to Pliny, or Lapius Maximus, in Bithynia, and he ordered Pliny, or Terentius Maximus, to buy him a farm near Prusa, and the people of Prusa voted him, as Archippus, a statue. Dio Chrysostom, Bithynian orator and philosopher, addressed the city assembly of this same Prusa in Bithynia, lauding Diodorus, but with equivocal meanings. Diodorus meant the gift of God, by which Dio meant Piso. Let me read that again. Dio Chrysostom, which is a person, he's a Bithynian orator and philosopher, addressed the city assembly of this same Prusa in Bithynia, lauding Diodorus, but with equivocal meanings. Diodorus met the gift of God, by which Dio met Piso. Starting shortly after the year 100, and as they were finishing Acts and writing the epistles, they were traveling about the provinces. They pretended to be present-day apostles and bishops, the successors of the apostles Paul and Peter, who they explained had lived and written a half-century before. While Pliny pretended he was Ignatius, Justus was Justinus, Julius was Clement of Rome, Proculus was Polycarp, and Julianus, Justus's son, was Papias. They were reading for the slaves and poor people who were the new believers, the synoptic gospels, Acts, and also the Pauline epistles, which they were just finishing. But they were explaining that these had been written back before the middle of the prior century. However, Christianity was not done in a corner, as the words attributed to Paul in Acts chapter 26:26. The intelligent of that day, the literate and upper classes, both in Rome and in all the conquered provinces around the empire, who profited from Rome's rule and supported it, knew what was occurring. About the time that Justus and his father and Pliny were starting the first churches in Bithynia, Dio Chrysostom in Bithynia grumbled, quote, "Surely you do notice what some of our booksellers do, because they, knowing that old books are in demand, since better written and on better paper, bury the worst specimens of our day in grain in order that they may take on the same color as the old ones, and after ruining the books into the bargain, they sell them as old." End quote. By the year 110, the New Testament, including the Pauline epistles, was substantially finished. All the books had been written except Revelation and Hebrews. There had been difficulty with some Roman writers. Valerius Martial, although using Pseudonyms for the Pisos, mocked and derided them, as he did most everyone else in Rome's aristocracy, other than Emperor Domitian. His closeness to the emperor permitted this, but after Trajan's accession in 98, Pliny graciously paid for Martial's passage back to this well-deserved retirement in his native Spain. Juvenal, the satirist, too, criticized the Pisos under various Pseudonyms, of course. In his 16th satire, which he addressed to Gallus, a form of Piso's Pseudonym of Gallus, he grumbled at the privileges enjoyed by Rome's legions. Later, the Piso's successors would truncate his writings appropriately at the 60th line of his said 16th satire. Other writers were cooperative, for there was peril in non-cooperation. No one wrote unless he was permitted by the emperor. The latter and the aristocracy were financial patrons of the writers. Thus, Statius, the poet, had written admiringly to the various members of the family during Domitian's reign. Later, after year 100, appeared the writings of Plutarch. Piso was his patron, and the family were his friends. He was not 100% convinced, but he was cautious. He wrote, quote, "After dinner, even common, unlettered people allow their thoughts to wander to other pleasures. They take up conundrums and riddles, or the names and numbers game." End quote. The names and numbers game was called in Greek isopha. ISOPSEPH. I'd probably really screwed that up. The total of the numerical values of a name's letters was equated with the total of the letters of another name. That was precisely what the Pisos were doing with small numbering, and that is what Plutarch was hinting at. By the year 115, the success of Piso's creation seemed assured. Thus far, only Josephus himself had dared to Thus far, only Josephus himself had dared to historicize Jesus, and that only in a brief paragraph. The Testimonium Flavium in his Jewish Antiquities about the year 90, plus a brief mention of the purported death of Jesus' brother, James. Of course, Philo of Alexandria, who died about 45 CE, and who wrote until after 40, mentioned Pilate in connection with the incident of the Roman shields, did not nor could he make any mention of Jesus nor the Christian story. Now the family had other writers place Jesus and Christianity in prior history. First, the Pisos used their friend Cornelius Palma, the jurist, writing under the name Cornelius Tacitus between 115 and 120. He mentioned Christ and said that he had founded the Christians and had been crucified by Pontius Pilate, and also detailed that Nero caused Christians to be torn by dogs and burned on crosses. Then Suetonius Tranquillus to historicize Nero's persecution with the mere statement that punishment was inflicted on the Christians, a new and mischievous superstition, and elsewhere said that Emperor Claudius, who ruled 41 through 54, had expelled the Jews from Rome for constantly making disturbances at the instigation of Christus. Suetonius was historicizing the story appearing in Acts of the Apostles, chapter 18, verse 2, that Claudius had commanded all the Jews to leave Rome, but perhaps he was hinting at the identity of him whom he was honoring with this account. But he deliberately, this time, misspelled the Christus name with an E instead of an I, although he wrote in Latin. Perhaps his intent was to make the spelling in Greek with the E total in the numbering, therefore, let me read that again. Perhaps his intent was to make the spelling in Greek with the E total in numbering, therefore 26, and hence the same as KP by the sequence system, instead of it being 22 if spelled normally as Christus, and that's with the C. Suetonius cooperated perfectly, for his name was a Pseudonym for his true name, Titus Antonius. He was Claudia Phoebe's elder son and Piso's grandson. Piso had taken him into his home and reared him when his father Rufus died about the year 93. In the year 138, he would become emperor and do further writings under the Pseudonyms as church fathers. First, he wrote as Titan. He said that the poor were enjoying Christian education gratuitously. Thus, the family had instituted free Christian schools to assist them in converting the poor to the new faith. Then tranquil, Antonius became Irenic when he created and wrote as Saint Irenaeus, church father. In Irenaeus Against Heresies, he deliberately again misspelled Christos, this time as Christos, and it added an extra E to the spelling of it. He deliberately again misspelled Christos, which is spelled Christos, this time as Christos, Chreistos. For this way it totaled 27 in Greek. Thus, he could honor Pliny as he had honored his grandfather. All right, so we're going to the next section, section 8. how to find Josephus as the author. Quote, I am not of this, and it has in parentheses, the world, end quote. And it's found in John chapter 17, verses 14 and 16. Very few people even dream that Josephus and his family wrote the New Testament because the world is attuned to pondering Jesus in terms of what did he mean and not in the terms of who wrote the story. The opposite is the case regarding Shakespeare. People wonder who wrote Shakespeare and not what did he mean. If they reverse the equations, more would come through the veil, which is the mystery of the gospel in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 19. That is, of its actual authorship, and would thereby find Jesus in fact. Hold on, let me read that again. If they reverse the questions, more would come through the veil, which is the mystery of the gospel in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 19, that is, of its actual authorship, and would thereby find Jesus in fact. And likewise, more would find the numerous inner circle allusions and clues in the Shakespearean writings. The way to pierce the veil is to ponder the New Testament and its brilliance, even though supposedly written by men so insignificant that nothing is known of them nor of their families outside the pages of the New Testament. And then to think, who could have written such a brilliant book which shows such complete knowledge of the life and times of the first century Judea? Then a person may think of all of the Josephs in the story, and of one of them being the reputed father of the baby. And if he has heard that writers have always written themselves into their stories, he may think of Josephus as the literary father of the baby and the creator of the story. Once he thinks of Josephus as the father of the baby and story, he may recall that Josephus in his Vita, remember the Vita is his biography. He may recall that Josephus in his Vita listed the names of his three sons. Studying the names of the three, Hyrcanus, Justus, and Simonides Agrippa, quickly produces the names of the main disciples in the New Testament. A. Hyrcanus. Josephus writes of the Maccabees, including John Hyrcanus, high priest. The first time he mentions him in the background portion of his Jewish war, he hints by calling him John, also called Hyrcanus. B. Justus. Twice a James appeared in his Vita as a bodyguard.
Jonathan here.
No, Jonathan went home yesterday, Pooh.
And Mommy.
Yes.
Where's my babies?
I don't know. You need to go find them, but put some of this on your lips before you come back. Are you eating blueberries? Yeah, that's why your fingers look like that in your lips. Okay. Okay. Justus. Twice a James appeared in his Vita as a bodyguard of Josephus, and once apparently the same bodyguard was named Justus. That made Justus and James swadoms of each other. C. Simonides. This was obviously a longer form of the name Simon. Once it is realized that Josephus created the Jesus story and that he himself played the roles of the Josephs and the Jesus, and that he wrote his three sons into the three main disciples' roles, and that he was not born until the year 37 CE, this brings Jesus crashing off the wall. Having found Josephus and his three sons, the searcher can then begin to trace their careers and their repeated changes of names through the first three Gospels. He can also begin to find the numerous parallels which Josephus created in his public writings, particularly his Vita, to remind one of the numbers, names, and events he had created in the Synoptic Gospels. A few examples are Okay, so, and it gives 2 lists of 8 things. The first list is from the writings of Josephus, and then a list from the writings of the Gospels. I think I'll read them. Hold on, let me see something. Yeah, I think I'm going to read them back and forth. Okay. From the writings of Josephus, number 1. At about 14 years of age, he, Josephus, was commanded by all for the love I had to learning. And that is found in Vita 9. From the Gospels, number 1. When Jesus was 12 years old, his parents found him after 3 days in the temple conversing with the teachers. And that's Matthew chapter 2, verse 46. Number 2, from the writings of Josephus, 12 Jews of Caesarea are sent as a delegation to Ecbatana, and that's found in Josephus's Vita, pages 54 through 55. Number 2, from the Gospels, Jesus appoints and sends out 12 apostles to preach and heal, Matthew chapter 10, verses 2 and verse 5. From the writings of Josephus, number 3, 70 messengers are sent from Ecbatana to Caesarea, and that's found in his Vita, page 56. From the Gospels, number 3, Jesus appointed 70 others and sent them ahead of him. That's found in Luke chapter 10, verse 1. From the writings of Josephus, number 4, during this time, before his purported surrender to the Romans, I was now about 30 years old. And that's found in his Vita on page 80. Number 4, from the Gospels, Jesus commenced his ministry when he was 30 years of age. Luke chapter 3, verse 23. It was just saying, Robert said, what does the misspelling mean? They were essentially creating different spellings of the name with, to let them, the misspelling of the name was done on purpose to let them know that they needed to look a little further. They were connecting the dots. For those who understood what was going on, and that the story was being written, those were clues for them to go back to certain places to look. So they misspelled things on purpose as clues for those who understood that the story was a farce, so they wouldn't get taken by it, right? And they would be able to put the puzzle together or unravel the string, so to speak. Okay. From the writings of Josephus, number 5, Josephus's quarters were in a Galilean village named Cana, and that's found in his Vita, page 86. From the Gospels, Jesus attended a wedding in Cana, John chapter 2, verses 1 through 2, then came to Cana again, John chapter 4, verse 46. Number 6, from the writings of Josephus, Josephus told his friends that in 3 days' time, he would quit the district and go home. That's found in his Vita on page 205. Number 6, from the Gospels, in Jesus' prophecies, he will be raised up on the 3rd day. Matthew 16, verse 21. Number 7, from the writings of Josephus, Jesus, chief magistrate of Tiberias, accuses Josephus of embezzling 20 pieces of gold. And that's found in his Vita, page 294 to page 297. They laid hands on him and attempted to kill him. And that's also found in his Vita, page 302. Ooh, thank you for that. I said Sweetum. Thank you, Auntie. I've been saying this wrong all this time. I said Sweetum. It's pseudonym. Thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all. Okay. And from the Gospels, number 7, Judas goes to the priest to obtain 30 pieces of silver for betraying Jesus. Matthew chapter 26, verses 14 through 16. And the last one, number 8, from the writings of Josephus, Josephus notices 3 of his acquaintances had been crucified, so he entreats Titus to take them down. 2 of them die, but 1 recovers. That's in his Vita, pages 420 to pages 421. And number 8 from the Gospels, 2 robbers are crucified on either side of Jesus. Matthew chapter 18, verse 38, only Jesus rises. Matthew 28, verse 6. Jerry, shalom. Having studied the first 3 Gospels, one then begins to read Acts of the Apostles and attempts to continue tracing Josephus and his sons in their various literary alter egos through the story. But he encounters a problem. The names start to be Roman, and new people, not pseudonyms of the family, began to appear, such as Gaius, Secundus, Cornelius, and Timothy. Thank you for keeping me from sounding illiterate for the rest of this reading. We need each other. So one must delve into Roman history and writings in search of more clues. Soon he finds Pliny, the only Roman governor who was known to have allegedly persecuted Christians, because he writes about doing so. Then when one reads Pliny's letters, he finds his dear friend is Fabius Justus. Immediately, the reader recalls the same name, Justus, as that of Josephus' son. Pliny's wife is found to be in Calpurnia, the granddaughter of Calpurnius Fabatus, and Fabatus reminds one of Flavius. And Fabatus reminds one of Flavius and of its possible variant, Fabius. By studying Pliny's letters further, the searcher finds Josephus appearing under various other names, such as Arius Antonius, Titinius Capito, Titus Aristo, Valerius Paulinus. He also sees Josephus's other sons appearing and deciphering their true names. John is really Julius. Simon is really Proculus. Pliny's letters introduce the family members, including Josephus's grandsons, under various names, and they also introduce the friends of Josephus and Pliny under actual names and pseudonyms. Then one can also begin to read the other Roman writers of that day, including historians Tacitus and Suetonius. They too supply hints and assorted pseudonyms of the various members of the family. Now the searcher is able to continue his deciphering of the true identities of the fictional characters in Acts and the epistles. Look, see, you can teach a person who was wise. You teach the wise and they'll become even wiser. Thank you. So I knew I was saying that word right. All right, y'all. The next section, where we at? 57 minutes? Ooh. This one is... maybe we should pause right here. I think we're going to pause right here for today, y'all. Because this section is a little bit longer and it's Monday, right? And so, got to be really prompt about our time today. Everybody got to get to work if you work for somebody else. And I got things I got to do today. All right, beautiful people. So, we're going to pause right here. And we'll pick this back up with this next section tomorrow morning, right? Which, hold on. When I say we was going to start that other book, we're going to have to start it Wednesday. Yeah, we're going to have to start it Wednesday. Okay, all the rest of these are the footnotes. Okay. Yeah, so we'll finish this tomorrow and we'll start the new book, Jesus Never Existed, Wednesday morning. So die joy. Ooh, stretch. Okay, beautiful people. That is it for today. Today is Monday, December the 6th, 2021. It is day 320 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive count, day 988. We read Proverbs 7, 8, and 9, and we read a little bit more of the true authorship of the New Testament. This is a rereading, if you forgot, because the first time we read from the PDF version, which was missing a good amount of pages from it. So we're reading it over again from the printed version that has all of the pages in here. And we're actually now in the section, the portion that we didn't hear the first time around. It's a really short read. I put the link also in the last couple of days that we read it. I put the link for this, and I went to Amazon day before yesterday, and it looks like they're back in stock. So if you wanted to get a printed copy, it looks like they're available now. Before, when we was actually reading it through the first time, I think after the first day, they completely got out of stock because I think people ordered them. I would say it's probably because my video that people ordered them, because I don't think that's a coincidence. You know, they had them available until I started talking about it. And then like the next day, a couple people said it's not for sale. They're out of stock. I'm like, they weren't just out of stock yesterday. So people went and ordered them. So they're back in stock now. If you need a printed copy, go ahead and get it. And I'll share the link in the description box today as well. So if you didn't get it from yesterday or can't find it for some reason, look in the description box of the Facebook or YouTube video and it will be there. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing. Hold on before I call her. Also, y'all, the new moon showed not on Saturday. It showed on Sunday. So the Sabbath will not be Saturday. They moved to Sunday, right? Okay, because I mentioned the other day, I said we were going to be looking for Saturday morning. I said we were going to be looking for the new moon. It wasn't spotted on Saturday, right? It wasn't spotted until Sunday. So Sabbath jumps from Friday. Now we celebrate it and we rest on Sunday, right? Easy way to remember the Sabbath. Find out for that month, if ever you forget, pull up an app or something, any kind of app, and find out the day the new moon was spotted. That day is the day that all the Sabbaths will fall on for that next moon cycle or the current moon cycle. So when you spot it Sunday for this month, that means the Sundays following then until the next new moon those Sundays will be the Sabbath. And so the next new moon, if the next new moon is spotted, meaning spotted on the day where she only shows for about 2 to 4 hours, depending on where you're at, it's like she fades in. It's like a reminder or getting us a heads up that, hey, boom, we're about to start another month. You got to be watching for me, right? She's going to show on the last daylight day of the previous month. So whether that's the 30th day of the month or the 31st day of the month of the previous month, and I'm going to give a better example. This is just so you can start remembering how to do this. I'm trying to explain it to y'all without giving y'all all the deep study and all the study notes, because sometimes most people don't want that. They just give me a quick way to remember this so I know what to look for. So when I explain it now, I want to just kind of give you a good example so you can remember. Okay, so we know the according to the Gregorian calendar, it's going to be out of line with the Gregorian calendar, the clock in the sky, right? Because they've changed dates and time. They changed dates and times. So the new month may not necessarily fall on like the 1st of December, right? Because as time progresses, the days change and it's out of sync. So this new moon, it actually fell on December the 5th, right? But when we go by the clock in the sky, that lets us know that we're starting a new month. Now, I'm going to try to make sure that this doesn't sound confusing. I'm going to explain it a way to help you remember. Okay, so when we're out there towards the end of the month and we're looking for the new moon to show, you must remember you got to be looking towards the west where the sun sets, right? That's the only place where you're going to see it. That's where she's going to show, which is crazy, right? Because they both rise in the east and they set in the west. But this one time out of every single month, it's one time where this happens every single month. And it's when the sun is going down on the last day of the month, right? So let's say January. January has, maybe not use February. I guess let's use March and April because it's 31 and like 30 days. Okay, so say this is, and it's still kind of like out of line. But just for the sake of the conversation, right? Let's just use March 31st, right? March 31st, every single day there's a day and there's a night, right? Or you have an evening period, then you have the day, which consists of the sunlight, then you have another evening period, and then you have the night, right? And the night is like the darkness, right? So it's evening, light, evening, dark. Or when it tells you in Genesis that evening after evening and evening there was a first day, because the day is encapsulated and it's separated from the night, right? So you have light and you have darkness, but the light and darkness is separated by two evening periods, right? So the day is encapsulated by two evening periods, and those two evening periods are better understood by us as dawn and dusk, right? They put evening, but it should have been translated dawn and dusk. So you wouldn't get it mixed up where people think the day begins at night. Okay, so the last day of the month, which is the last day of daylight for that month, because we'll be entering the next month. So the next month would be, so April 1st would be day one of the first day of sunlight for that month. But March the 31st is the last day of sunlight for that month, right? Okay, stay with me, y'all. So I said that so you can understand. The moon is going to show on the last day of the month during the daylight hours as the light is going out to let you know, hey, be paying attention because tomorrow we start another month, right? The new moon always shows on the last day of the month. That's how we know we start another month the next day. Now, I like to call it, some people explain it different, but here's how I understand it. When the moon shows on the last day of the month to let you know, hey, tomorrow starts another day. And this is also how people get their count mixed up with the Sabbath, right? So on the last day of the month, the moon shows for a few hours to let you know, get you ready. Tomorrow starts the next day of the month, which will actually be day one. Some people actually count the new moon day, the day she shows herself for a couple hours, as day one. Thereby their count gets off. But you have to remember, when we read through the book of Enoch, it tells us how the count of the sun and the moon is off, but it's maybe that's the wrong word. The sun shows every single day. Okay, the book of Enoch says there's 364 days, but for the sake of conversation and the Gregorian calendar, there's 365 days in a year, right? The sun is going to show every single day, right? And so it has a constant count of these days that it shows every single year. The moon is not so. We only see the moon actually showing, no matter what phase she is in, we only see her full of light for about 20 days out of every month. The other days, we don't see her because it's dark or it's transition. Maybe it's a little more. It's a little more than 20 days where she's light, right? So that's how the count gets off. So while you're counting the months, you have to keep all of that in consideration. You have to remember all of those things, right? Okay. So on the last day of the month, which is the last day of sun for the month of March, which is March 31st. Tomorrow is April 1st. April 1st begins the first day of light for the month of April. March 31st is the last day of light. It's the 31st day of light for the month of March. I know that sounds a little bit repetitive, but just to make sure it clicks, right? Okay, so the last day of light for the previous month, the moon will show, hey, I'm here. I'm just giving you a heads up. Tomorrow starts the new month, which will be day 1. Don't count me when I show for these few hours. Don't count me as day 1. I'm just a reminder to begin your count tomorrow, which is how we get the perfect count, where the Sabbath always ends up on the day that the new moon showed for that month, right? It's a reminder. It's an easy way. And I could break it down where you can even, once you get familiar with it, I would recommend that you actually observe this outside. And that's what I did for a few years. I actually went out and I was observing the sky, the moon, and the sun, how they operate, how they move. I'm even able to look at the sky now and tell the time throughout the day. Like when it's 4:30, I know it's 4:30 because the sun will be towards the west and the shadow, the sun shines right here on my neighbor's house at 4:30. And I tested that every single day for about a month. And at 4:30, like clockwork, I could tell that it was 4:30 because the sun would always be in the same position. The sun follows the same course every single time. It always casts the same light and the same type of shadow. So if you can find markers in the earth to help you tell time, you will learn a whole lot faster. You just have to observe your surroundings, right? That may seem like a lot, but it's not. Just really begin to pay attention. Look for shadows and stuff. That's why how they were able to tell time with like shadows on the ground. Oh, it's high noon, right? Because the way your shadow would be positioned when the sun is straight up and down right above your head. There are certain type of shadows that are cast at different times of the day, right? Okay, so I said all that. I know I said a lot, but I want to say it in different ways to help it click, because I had to look at it at a lot of different angles before it clicked. So the way I understand it is the last day of the month, and not necessarily the like March 31st is the last day of the month, because they're still off. If we're following the clock in the sky and the Gregorian, well, the calendar and clock in the sky and the Gregorian calendar, it's always going to be off, right? For the most part. There are times where it seems like it's lining up perfectly, but it'll quickly move because the way that they've moved stuff around, right? But if you pay attention, it just takes time to observe joy, and it took me like 3 years to grasp it really good, right? So I'm telling you just a shortened version of what I did when I was learning for those 3 years and what I observed, literally taking my notebook, writing down notes, looking at the time. I'm pulling up the data websites, the new moon sightings, all these things, and paying attention. It's like, oh, snap. Okay. Okay. Oh, I get it. So once you familiarize yourself with something and you begin to practice it and observe it, it's easy to understand. It's like your understanding, it develops, right? And it's like, oh, duh. So that's my old duh explanation. The last day of the month, the new moon shows to let you know that a new month is starting tomorrow. So new moon day, the day that the moon shows, we don't count that as day 1. People get their count off by counting that day as day 1. It is not day 1. If you count that as day 1, you're going to mess your Sabbath day counts up. And now you're going to be celebrating the Sabbath on a non-Sabbath day, right? So remember, the day that the new moon shows, like the new moon day or a sighting of the new moon, that is literally the last day of the current month. The next month, day 1 starts the very next day, which will also begin the day count, the first day of daylight for that month, day 1, day 2, all the way back around, because the moon is going to show on the last day of the month at the evening time when the sun is going out, right? She shows for a quick moment. The sun is going out, and you have to observe real closely. You'll find her in the western sky. When the sun is going down, she shows, she comes in, and she goes right back out. I'm going to share again with y'all this video that one of the news stations, I think it was Channel 13, recorded here, and they got it by, I'm going to say they got it by mistake, but they were really recording a sunset. But what happened during this sunset, it was actually the new moon day, where the new moon, she faded in and she faded out within about a 4 hours time. And I happened to see it, and I wasn't actually looking at it for that, but while I was sitting here working, I just had it up and it just began to play, and I began to notice it. And I'm like, wait, is that the new moon? Hold on, did they catch the new moon? And so I like to use that example, and I'll show you. If you I'll paste the video and then just watch it. I give you the link for on YouTube. YouTube is going to take you back to Facebook to watch it. But watch that. You can speed it up, or you can fast forward or run it back, and you will see it in the western sky while the sun is setting. You'll see the new moon. She's going to come in and she's going to go right back out, right? So that's how, in all of my study over the last few years, that's how I remember how to keep the count, right? Okay, if I'm off, okay, let me just find out when the new moon showed. Okay, she showed Sunday. Okay, that means that day 1 of this next month begins Monday. So it's new moon day, or the line leader for the month, like the head of the month, new moon, then day 1, day 2, all the way back around. So when you get to day 7, it lands on a Sunday, if Sunday was the day that you spotted the new moon. Boom. And then, but you'll also begin to notice when you get to day 7, the moon is always at a certain phase. Then you go all the way around, and 7 days again, this the second Sabbath of the month, which would be the 14th day of the month. But for the full month count, it would literally be day 15. But to keep the count for the Sabbath, it would be day 14. The new moon day, which is not counted in the count of the Sabbath, is counted in the whole full days of the month. I know this sounds kind of confusing, but like I said, I get it because I studied it so long, and that's the way I can remember it. So to remember the Sabbath, guys, whatever day that the new moon shows, the day that the new moon was spotted, that is your Sabbath day for that month cycle, or that moon cycle, until the next new moon is started. It's spotted. When the next new moon is spotted, if it's spotted on a Thursday, Thursdays will be your Sabbath days for that moon cycle. And that goes against our thinking of how they created the Gregorian calendar. It's like, it's the 7th-day Sabbath. Or you automatically thinking Saturday or Friday, depending on where you come from. But you have to retrain your mind to the Creator's time clock and not man's time clock. Man's time clock has screwed us up, right? And it may take you a little while. You have to observe it for a little while. It's just a process of repetition, where finally this next repetition makes everything click. And the light comes on like, oh, I get it now. And it took me about 3 years before that, light came on for me, right? But I was constantly searching those 3 years, so I had a lot of information to pull from and to study and test and practice doing the counts. But it always works out perfectly. At least that's how I understand it. I've listened to a couple different people. Their explanation is close, but they kind of confuse me on some things, But somehow their math still works out. But the way I explain it is how I remember how to keep the count correct. The day that the new moon shows is the last day of the current month, but it's also letting us know that tomorrow the new month begins. It begins the count for the Sabbath. The month. So the last day of the month, when the moon shows, that would be the first night of the month, right? So it's the last day. Well, no. Did I say that right? Hold on, I want to get myself confused and confuse y'all too. Okay, so the new moon shows. Just remember, the day that it shows for those couple hours, that's the last day of the current month. We just finished the month, and tomorrow begins the new month. For counting the Sabbath days, right? 1, 2, 3, all the way back to 7. Sundays, the day we spotted the new moon. The Sabbath will be on Sundays. Okay, I know I said that a whole lot, but hopefully they kind of clicked a little bit, maybe. So with that being said, beautiful people, if that still didn't make sense, I'm going to try and find a way. I don't know. You just have to You just really have to get out there and observe it and look and see what I'm saying. Like, really track it. You know, and then it'll click. Bella! Come on, let's do the blessing. So, I hope it kind of helped a little bit, y'all. That's like the way I explain it to my children. You know, the children's version explanation. And don't feel slighted because I said that, because that's how I understand it, right? Everything I understand, if I can teach you, it's because I teach it to my children the same way. So don't think I'm like talking down on y'all or anything, or I think y'all illiterate, because I really don't, because that's the way I understand it. Now you might think I'm illiterate, but hey, to each his own. That's how I understand it. All right, y'all. So let's do this. Tootie, we gotta pause this. It's too much noise. And let's bring up the blessing. All right, y'all, remember the blessing. And now I'm gonna share that video, and I'm gonna also share again the new moon link where you can look and see other places where they also spotted the new moon. Because when I can't see it and it's cloudy, I check other sources who are also watching. All right, y'all. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers Chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them. What you doing, Tony? How you going to lift your arms up? Okay, you going to lift up one? Okay.
And 2.
Okay. Raise our hands to the Most High. Yahuwah will kneel before us presenting gifts and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Yes, Tootie.
We can go to the store and get my stuff.
No, because I put an order in for that, Tootie, and it'll be delivered.
No, not coming.
Okay. Joy said, nope, that's what I need sometimes. Shucks, that's what I need all the time, a lot of times.
Oh my God,
but it helps, right? And I don't mind doing that, simply because I have a whole bunch of churn, right? So I'm constantly repeating stuff all day long, and it's just become my natural course of life, and it's normal to me. So I don't mind repeating things over and over again, you know. And even if I don't feel like repeating it over and over, I'll save notes and references to where, like, you know what, I saved that. People ask me that so much, I just put it in notes, and I'm gonna share my notes with you. There you go.
End the video.
Okay, girl, go ahead and end this video. All right, y'all, I love y'all.